So then they booked me with an oncologist, and I remember just the oncologist looks up and I said, "So what does this mean if it's spread to my liver?" And he goes, "It means you probably have about 6 months to live."
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Curiosity Class. Today is a little bit of a dream come true for me. My guest is the one and only Rich Fettke. He's the co-founder of Real Wealth. He's the best-selling author of The Wise Investor. I have it right here. It's been a huge impact on my life. So, Rich, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Great to be here. It's going to be fun.
I can't wait. So okay, before we dive in, let's set the table a little bit. So you've had a crazy background, you've had a crazy life. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start at the kind of the beginning of your career? Do you want to start where do you want to start?
Just dive in. I mean, kind of what drives me, the inner gremlin that drives me in the negative way, and the other side of it is, when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed learning disabled, and put in special classes, got made fun of and all this, and didn't even graduate with my high school class. I had to go back and do summer school and take English. But so I had this self-belief that I was never going to amount to anything. I literally have deficiency reports that they send home to my mom that says, it has a little box check next to it, says, lacks what it takes to succeed. It's like real good imprinting for a young guy, right? So I had to overcome that. And it wasn't until senior year of high school, where I was getting bullied, I was getting punched every day by the high school bully, that I started to lift weights. And that changed my life. The weightlifting, learning discipline, learning how to set goals, learning how to visualize where I want to be. And as I got stronger physically, my mind got stronger. And that carried over to me getting obsessed with personal growth, personal development, and training, and then opened a gym when I was 23, a world gym near Boston. That's where I grew up, and ran that for 7 years. Sold that, moved to California, met my wife 6 months later. So yeah, really changed things. And I moved out with a business plan to start a chain of fitness gyms, which is in the book, it's similar to that in The Wise Investor. So I started to do that. I opened one of them and hired trainers and all. But then I heard about this new thing back then in 1995 called coaching. And it was this newer thing. It was the big buzzword. It was all around the business circle. So I went through and I got my master certified coach credential, went through a 1.5 year long training program. That led to media interviews because coaching was so hot in the media, led to a book deal with Simon and Schuster, and speaking engagements all over the country. So it was quite a transformation, and I credit a lot of it to weightlifting, honestly.
Did you pivot? Like, so your plan was, you said you're going to open up a chain of fitness centers. And what was that pivot like? Like what information did
Ooh.
you take in to be like, oh, I'm actually going to stop this and go into coaching?
Part of it was I was sick of being a rent-a-friend. Being a fitness trainer, a lot of times the clients are like, do I have to do this today? And it's like counting reps and all that stuff. So it's like I lost my passion for it because I didn't focus on the right target market. It's my fault, really. Had I focused on athletes and people who want to go to the next level, and I think it would have been more enjoyable. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I heard about this thing called coaching, and I went in and did their first training class, I was like, this is it. I found my calling. It's like helping people achieve their goals, helping people grow their businesses. I had finished my business degree before I moved out to California. So I was armed with that. So all that kind of led to that pivot and that shift. I was like, do I want to keep training people, or do I want to start coaching people? And it was an easy decision.
And that's almost like you solve your own problem, because you kind of have that self-selecting bias of the group that you're coaching. Presumably they want help. They want to be better. They want to be, there for a reason.
Yeah, I have a coach that gave me a really good line a while ago, or quote. I was complaining about, some people that I knew that I was trying to help and support and help them grow. And I could see so much more for them than they could see in themselves. And I was so frustrated because they wouldn't take the actions to get better. And he said, help the people who want it, not the people who need it. I thought it was just huge. It landed with me. Help the people who want it, not the people who need it. So the people who want it they're gonna lean in. They're gonna be coachable. They're gonna take the actions. And the people that I think need it, looking at them and judging them, thinking, well, they need this help. It's not really fair to them, and it's not really fair to them. I mean, to me, it's gonna just waste all of our efforts.
Mhm. Mhm. And so how did you use a lot of your clients from the gyms in your new coaching business? Like, how did you start growing that?
Yeah, that was the beginning. Yeah. So in the beginning, I was training these clients, and I'm like, I'm going through this new thing called coaching. It's training. Would you like to start doing some sessions with me? And I did a real low introductory rate, and so
Mhm.
we would do their fitness training session, and then we'd go and sit at my desk, and I'd do a coaching session with them for about 45 minutes, and they loved it. They got a lot of value. And then after a while, I would say, okay, now I'm upping my coaching fee. So I upped my monthly coaching fee. So that was the start. And then just started to go and speak around, like at the Chamber of Commerce, and attend business meetings and networking things, and would meet clients that way.
And what was the book deal? What was that first book for?
That was a huge breakthrough for me. It was with Simon and Schuster. So I wrote a book called Extreme Success. It came out in 2002. And so I'm an adventure athlete. I love to surf and skydive and rock climb and mountain bike, all that fun stuff. And so the Extreme Success is about comparing extreme sports and adventure sports principles over to business and life, how to deal with fear, how to stay calm in the moment, how to stay focused and effective. So a lot of those things carried over to the book. And yeah, it was wild because I first wrote a book proposal called The Power of Partnership. And we shopped
Okay.
that around. I think it was 16 publishers said no to it. And then I met with this marketing consultant, and she was interviewing me for my talks and what my focus is. And I told her about this close call skydive I had where I almost went in, almost ate it. And she's like, how come this isn't in your book? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, because it's like, it's a business book I'm writing. Who wants to read about adventure sports? And it's like, a lot of people do. There's a lot of people who read about climbing Everest that don't want to climb Everest. So,
Sure.
so I wove that into this new book called Extreme Success. And we had 6 publishers this time say, fly out to New York City. We want to meet with you. I went out with my agent and went around to these different publishers, from Warner Books to Viking Penguin, and um, went into Simon and Schuster, and just had a amazing meeting. I think it was a 52nd floor, big marble table, and really good memories. Looking back on it. And
Totally. And how old are you at this point?
let's see, I was about 32, 31. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
you were rocking and rolling. And when did you meet Kathy?
I met Kathy 6 months after I moved to California. So I moved out in January. I met her in the summer, in a personal development workshop. It was like a 3-month program where you set 3 goals for the 90 days, and there's accountability. You have a coach, and I got the buddy that I was supposed to be, they call them buddies, teamed up with. He flaked, didn't show up for this first meeting. And so it was an odd number of people. So the facilitator was like, okay, Rich, I'm going to partner you up with Kathy and Trisha. So he put me with two women in the program. And all of a sudden I had a new goal in this program. It was Kathy. Goal
That's a
achieved.
That's amazing, man.
Mhm.
And I mean, we could have a whole episode about working with your spouse, but was the book that you were shopping around, The Power of Partnership, was that about working with partners in business or about working with your partner in life? Like, was that a relationship book or was that a business book? Both.
Yes.
Okay.
It was, very much about the power of having another person, a business partner, a spouse that supports you and you support them. But also it's carried the coaching principles over. So going through getting trained and certified in coactive coaching, they call it. It's where you're not coming in as a mentor or an advisor saying, this is how you do it. It's drawing out from the other person, very Socratic method. So that is like, you're partnering with the other person it's like 1 + 1 = 3. You're coming up with ideas that either of you would not have come up with on your own. So that's the real power partnership, whether it's in business or in life.
Got it. And how long have you guys always, like, basically since you've met? Because obviously, it's a very similar mindset that you both share. And like, that's what a cool story about how to meet your spouse.
Yeah,
Have you
that's pretty awesome.
Have you always from the beginning worked together, like in a professional capacity as co-founders and as business partners since, the beginning of your relationship? Or was that later?
I mean, as co-partners on many things, raising 2 daughters, now raising grandkids, and in the beginning, Kathy was, in the media doing news and things like that, worked for ABC and, CBS and all that as a reporter, and then kinda she had her own career, I had mine speaking and coaching, and then, after a while, then she got pregnant, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she kinda kept a radio show on the side, like a paid one that she would do, almost like having a podcast back then.
Yeah.
And she was doing that. It was all on coaching principles about improving in growth and personal growth. And then right after my book tour for Extreme Success in 2002, now I'd been coaching for whatever it was, 7 years then. Um, uh, I noticed a weird freckle on my leg. I'm a ginger, so it's like got a lot of freckles, but this was a weird one. It turned out to be melanoma, and which is the most deadly form of skin cancer. And there was also one on my temple they found, and it went pretty deep. So I had a couple surgeries. The doctor said, "I want you to get a CT scan to make sure it hasn't metastasized and spread anywhere." And the CT scan showed 4 masses on my liver. And so that was scary, and he was concerned, and then so I had to wait, almost a month for an ultrasound, and I got the ultrasound, and that showed 4 masses on my liver. So then they booked me with an oncologist, and I remember just the oncologist looks up, and I said, "So what does this mean if it's spread to my liver?" And he goes, "It means you probably have about 6 months to live." And it's such an aggressive cancer, there's not much not much you can do about it really at all for if it's spread to the liver. So that had Kathy freaking out. What am I going to do? And I had to wait for a PET scan, which is the most advanced scan for finding cancer. I had to wait another several weeks. But in that not knowing, Kathy's like, what am I going to do if Rich passes? And we have 2 young daughters. And at that point, she didn't have a job. And so she pivoted that radio show and started to interview people about wealth and how did you achieve wealth? How did you accomplish your wealth? And a lot of them are real estate investors. So in that meantime, luckily, I had the PET scan. It showed me 100% cancer free, which was the hallelujah moment. They said what it probably is just hemangiomas. They're like clusters of blood vessels that 20% of the population has somewhere in their body as we're, forming as babies. Sometimes these blood vessels create little clusters and all that. And so it was harmless, didn't hurt me. Here I am 25 years later or more, and still here doing well. But that was the impetus for Kathy to kind of discover real estate investing and say, this is what I want to do. And so that's what we started to do. We started to invest ourselves. She ended up having Robert Kiyosaki on her show. This is back in the early days when the cash flow game had just came out, and Rich Dad Poor Dad had just come out. And so he was talking to Kathy, and he said, I think that anyone in California should at this time, sell your high priced California properties, your rental properties, and take all that money and go to Texas because that's going to be the next boom. And so that's what we did. We went to Texas. We bought 5 or 6 properties in Texas, little rental properties. And that's what started our company, Real Wealth. And we just, with people listening to the show, Kathy would share the story. And then her listeners were saying, I want to invest. And Kathy became a mortgage broker, and we just started to help people invest in real estate. And now that little company has now 88,000 members, and we've helped investors acquire almost 8,000 rental properties. So kind of a desperation founding of the company, but that's where we are today.
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, it was
W-
insane. It was painful, man. Not knowing it when you got 6 months and you got 2 little daughters, it's like it was the hardest thing I ever went through emotionally.
y- I'm sure. What did you? Maybe this is a silly question, but like, you got that news on a, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it was. You woke up the next day. Like, what did you literally do? Like, what was your days? Like, how did you structure your time at that point?
That's a great question. Yeah, I remember, yeah, when I came out of the doctor's office, I was alone. I went into my car and shut the door and just started to pound my steering wheel with my fist, crying. And then I calmed myself down, went home, told Kathy with tears in my eyes. And then next day was like, I it just worried. honestly, in the beginning, I
Sure.
wasn't very stoic, and so I was worried. I didn't know what was going to happen, and it was maybe a week later. Kathy set up an appointment with this guy who calls himself a healer, and he's just asking me all these questions, and then he said, "So tell me about your mindset." And I said, like 70% of the time I feel I'm going to live I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. But 30% of the time I think I'm going to die. I'm not going to see my daughters grow up, get married and everything. And he just stops me and he said, I never want you to think that or say that again. From now on, you tell yourself whenever that thought comes in, you are 100% going to be fine. 100% you're going to be okay. Just keep that belief in your head. So it was a healing message. And
Sure.
after that, whenever that little gremlin came into my head saying you're going to die or something, I'd be like, nope, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And so whether it's blind optimism or what, but it gave me hope, and it allowed me to just keep moving forward and keep up with my coaching clients and keep a good attitude and just kind of wait it out and hope for the best.
Can we unpack that a little bit? Because I think what you just said is amazing, but I think it's also really hard to do, right? Because that sounds awesome. Like if you have this crazy, and like this is the most extreme example, but if you have this thought of the doctors are telling me that it's not looking good, yeah, I think even a 30% chance is like that's still very optimistic. Like you are already an optimistic person to begin with, but and then someone tells you don't think that. So how do you take that advice and like how do you actually apply that to your day to day? Because I imagine it's super hard.
I think it carries over all the time. It's what does a negative get you, I guess, is the
Mm,
question. What if I focused on that inner gremlin, that fear, all my energy would have gone into it, and it's just like it would be like stoking the fire. The more I focused on it, the more it would grow and give me reasons why I'm going to be dead. So by just almost like it was a structure or a tool of like, oh, okay, whenever that comes into my head, I just nope, I flip it over and I say, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be fine. And it's almost like an affirmation, right? And it's like
yeah,
they do work, and it's like it's our those neural connections in our brains. You keep thinking the same thought, and it literally is laying down more myelin from neuron to neuron. So you're going to start making that thought a habit in a way, and it's just
yeah,
the opposite when you flip it over. So I started to make that my habit, and now today after going through that, money, anything, it's like whatever. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm with the people I love. So it's like I'm so less affected by big stressful things like that.
sure, sure. When you first started doing those, we'll call them affirmations, like trying to switch those thoughts, did you believe them, or were you literally just saying them?
I believed them except when I didn't. Right? Yeah, it was just like, there's a part in you, in anyone, in all of us when we say, I'm going to start this business and I got this. This is going to be a successful business. And
Hmm.
there's going to be a thought that's going to come in. Yeah, but what if you
Hmm.
fail? But what if, and it looks for evidence, and basically it's that we were born with that fear. The fear was born with us, and it's actually doing its best job. In Extreme Success, I write about make fear your friend, because that fear has protected us from embarrassment, from danger, from ridicule, from all these things since we were little kids. But then it starts to overprotect. So by
Hmm.
having a conversation with that fear and just saying, hey, what do you need right now? You're going nuts. You're telling me don't do this, or you're going to fail. You're going to give a speech, or you're going to fail in front of the room, or whatever. And then you just say, okay, fear, what do you need right now? And a lot of times that like inner voice will just say, I need you to be more prepared. I need you to really have this speech down. I need you to, if it's an investment, I need you to really do your due diligence and make sure you go over the performa and you back up the numbers and make sure that's, so it's kind of like this great little thing that just comes up and pops into your head that's protects us and sometimes overprotects us. So the stare fear in the face and just ignore it doesn't really work too well. Not for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. I guess I want to dig a little deeper though. Like, did you? Because I imagine there must have been so much fear at that time that like you almost can't you can't prepare. There's nothing you can do in that scenario, right? So like, I guess what you were saying before is like, no, you just have that mindset of like, I'm gonna be okay, and like you said blind optimism, so maybe there's a part of that that is. But
Yeah, and there's faith, you know what I mean? Faith is like
yeah.
believing in something that you can't prove.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, there's a lot of prayers, there's a lot of faith, and I think that's it. It's like focusing on the faith of, "I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna be taken care of, I'm gonna come through this." Yeah, but there's yeah, even when that fear is like the devil, right?
Right.
Sometimes, even though it's like trying to protect us, if you let it win, yeah, then you're gonna be just living in hell on earth.
Man, that's insane, and I'm obviously so glad that it was a mistake and that you ended up
Thank you.
obviously
Me
being
too.
okay. So from there, did you have like this innate like was the drive stronger than ever, or was it more just like because you could have sat back on your heels, you could have been like, I'm just so happy, like, but you kept going, you kept pushing. So what was that like?
It was kind of a like after someone passes, someone close to you, they say one of the best things you can do is get lost in work and action and keep moving. Don't just
Hmm.
sit there and wallow. Don't stare at the floor. And it's like move, make things happen. So I think that was it. It was my outlet. I have a lot of energy, so I needed to focus that energy. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on getting my next speech. I'm going to focus on helping my clients. I'm going to focus on being a great dad. And after the whole experience, it led to me discovering my purpose because before that, I really didn't have a clear purpose. There was so many things in life that I loved and wanted to do and all that, but I was a young guy and my purpose was making money back then.
Hmm.
So after this, it really shifted things for me and I was on a hike in this open space and I was out there and I was actually listening to have you heard of Brian Johnson and Philosopher's Notes?
I don't think so. No.
It was really good. Like Philosopher's Notes, if you check that out later, is a great resource. I've been following his work since probably 2005. He takes like the best books of all time from personal development to business to spirituality, and he boils them down. He was one of the first to do it, boils them down into a 6-page PDF and a 20-minute audio. So I was listening
Cool.
to a philosopher's note, and it was all about purpose. And I stopped it and I just kept walking, took my earbuds out and thought about what is my purpose. And it just came down. It seems like a silly one. It's silly in a way, but it's to live an awesome life. And it sounded really selfish. But when I was saying like, okay, what is it that I'm here for? Living an awesome life to me is making a difference in people's lives. It's coaching people to achieve what they didn't think was possible. It is giving back and contributing through donations and charity. It's being an amazing dad and husband and now grandfather. So it's a simple purpose, but it's all encompassing. And I like it because I can constantly work and focus on my purpose. So that came from this kind of flipping things upside down of like, and I didn't really focus on money right there, in my
Right, right,
well,
right.
it is abundance, that's part of living in the more abundant I am, the more abundant I can make others. So
You said you're on a hike and you said you're listening, but was there like this moment that it just kind of came to you?
it was just like he asked in it. He was doing forget what the book was that he was going over. It was like purpose driven life or something like that. And so
Okay.
then he always stops and will say, "So think about that. What about you?" He always says, "What about you? What is your purpose?"
Mm,
And instead of just saying, I'm not sure, I just stopped it. And that's when I started to walk and I'm like, okay, what is my purpose? So I kind of like was like, okay, tell me. I'm open for it. And that just popped into my head, live an awesome life. And I'm like, my first thought was that's kind of selfish. And then as I thought about it more, all those other things came up.
okay. What do you like if people come to you, you said you're a father, you're a grandfather now. Congratulations, by the way, becoming a
Thank
grandfather.
you.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, if your kids or your grandkids come to you and they said, you know what, I'm trying to find my purpose. What do you any tips, any advice? Like what should I do? How would you how would you walk them through that?
Oh, the same way I would anyone. I'm a coach. So I would
Right.
ask them questions. I would ask them questions. I wouldn't, I would just say, when you feel most alive, when you're lit up and things are just feel amazing, what is that? Tell me about a time in your life when you just felt incredibly alive. And tell me
Mm,
about a time in your life when you were doing something for someone else that made you feel incredibly alive. It's so usually that will bring up something good. And then you can also say, what's something that really pisses you off? What's something that really gets you angry and upset? And then boom, you take that and you flip it over. On the other side of that is usually something purpose driven.
Interesting. Okay. So it's a lot of questions, a lot of drawing things out of people.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
process. And sometimes it takes years and years, right?
I'm sure. Yeah. Do you feel now that, because I obviously I love personal development books. I love, self improvement and constantly trying to grow and improve. And you always kind of hear about like, oh, you find your purpose. So obviously talking to you, I feel like you have found your purpose, right? Like you are very, you can kind of tell just from the sound of your voice, the way you're talking about things, the way you're lighting up when you talk about these ideas. Once you do that, once you kind of cross that threshold, is there now this other thing that you're kind of working towards? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, for sure. Yeah, because a lot of people say, "What are you up to?" or "What's next?" or what's new and exciting for you?" Whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. It's the biggest, most powerful thing for me is back when I was in college, I would record the classes. I was obviously, I was my learning disabled was a hyperkinetic disorder is what they called it back then. Today they call it ADHD. They did
Okay.
back then. So when I was 8 years old, it's like when I was young, I was broke, and now after years of hard work, I'm no longer young. Just that's the way I feel. It's like, whoa, that happened quick. But it was there's something, about the college. That's what I was talking about. When I was in college, I would record my classes because I couldn't focus, and I'd go home and I'd listen either in the car on my way home or at home in my desk. So I was listening to this. I had it on a micro cassette, and I just had this insight. I was bored with my studying. I took this micro cassette that we used to have and flip it over in the cassette player, and I hit record, and I said, "A day in the future of Rich Fettke." And I did this future self in visualization. In a way, I just verbalized it and talked about me in the future. And it was me at probably like 40 years old, and which I would love to be that again. But it was this really cool experience. And then over the years, I've continued to deepen that, and I've taken hundreds of clients through it. When I do keynote speeches, I'll have the whole audience close their eyes and do some deep breathing, and I'll take them and meet their future self 10 to 20 years in the future. So that is now my driving force, is my future self. I'm so
Mm.
clear on who he is. And actually, the mentor in The Wise Investor is my future self. If I keep getting smarter and in better shape, and more successful, John Weiss is my future self.
Man, so I did the future self guided audio that you did this morning, and
Oh, awesome.
it was amazing, man. Like I think I had done it before. I think from the book I kind of knew a little bit of the structure, and I love that kind of stuff. I love meditating. I love deep thinking, and I cried. I
Awesome.
like, and I didn't know that I was going to, but I was like, that guy's awesome. Like I
Awesome. I
like I
love it.
can't wait to meet him.
Mm.
Um,
See, I
but
get a
it
little teary eyed right now. See, it's like that's purpose stuff.
yeah
That's purpose
yeah
stuff
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, so man, like, thank you for putting that out there because it's a really amazing exercise, and I think the coolest part is that you can go do that whenever you want. Like it's available always.
Mm, always, always there. Yep. It's always right there. Your future self is always there to be your wise guide, your wise mentor. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I do that all the time. So yeah. And if you want to share that, it's just realwealth.com/grow is where people can listen to that. Yeah. It's
Totally,
free.
yeah.
You don't have to, you don't have to put your email in or anything.
We'll definitely include a link because yeah, it's a super. It's like 10 minutes, I think 9 minutes and 45 seconds or something, and it's just a really powerful exercise. And I
Mm,
imagine
I
it's
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that's my driving force. I've built out an AI future self. So he knows everything about me. It's me at 70 years old. So I got eight
okay,
years before then, but it's me at 70, and I can go into this AI future self that, as I had Claude ask me all these questions about my confidence and what I've accomplished and who I am as a grandfather, all these things. And I can just go in and he gives me the ultimate coaching session. It's really awesome.
that's epic.
Yeah, I
That's
love it.
epic.
Yeah.
I want to ask a couple of questions about relationships with your spouse? Because I think you and Kathy have, at least from the outside, a pretty unbelievable relationship. And it's really
Good, we
like I've
fooled him. No, it's great. It's a great relationship. You have 29 years married now, coming up on 30.
I've gotten to see you guys speak at least one time in real life, and just listen to you guys on podcasts and stuff. And it's awesome. Like the way that you guys compliment each other, and the way that you're obviously working together is stressful. But so I want to ask a couple questions, just like in a spouse, in a relationship, how do you juggle everything? I mean, yeah, just like what if your kids come to you and say, I'm struggling in my marriage, whatever, what would you tell them? And you can't say,
Oh,
I'm going to ask
man, yeah,
questions
it's like
again.
the old partnership is the hardest ship to sail, right? It has been challenging, but it's also been awesome. It's been way more awesome than it has been challenging, but the
Hmm.
challenges have brought us closer together, and we better understand each other and all that. So it's, um, it helps to find the right person, and I definitely found the right person. She's made me so much more of who I am today, by far. I can't even imagine life without her. So it helps to find the right person. And then it also helps to consistently communicate on a deep level, like not just the surface stuff. But Kathy and I have hired marriage counselors, relationship coaches. We did a whole, I think it was 12 weeks of tantra coaching, which is all about connection and really getting to know each other and really connecting in a deep, deep level before the sexual stuff, is brought into it, but which is great
Yeah.
too. But it's I think that's the key. And as a man, the biggest thing that I've learned is curiosity. So
Hmm.
being curious has helped us move through so many challenges where instead of coming in and doing the old typical guy thing of like, I've got the answer or let me help you solve this, it's just being very curious. I listened and read a great book called Getting to Zero, and it's all about getting to that level where if you're out of sync and one person's up here and one person's down here, how can you get to just zero so you're both understanding each other? And he's got an exercise called LUFU, LUFU, and it's listen until fully understood. So I'm always telling myself, okay, LUFU, LUFU, listen. And do I truly understand her? And then I'll just ask her questions and I'll say, so here's what I'm hearing. Let me make sure I understand you. And I'll say back to her, here's what I understand. And then she'll say, yes. And also this, and then I'm like, okay. And when she feels heard, everything works.
Yeah. And I'm sure it goes both ways too, right? So like as you're I don't know if lufuing can be a verb, but if you're as you're lufuing, she's lufuing, and so you're
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We both commit to it for sure.
man, that's amazing. How did having kids change you and then change your relationship with Kathy?
It was, I was in such the mode of when I moved out to California that I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids, which is funny. And then I met Kathy, and Kathy had a 3-year-old from her previous marriage. So she had been divorced just for about a year and a half when I met her, probably 2 years. And then, and she had this 3-year-old Karina. And so I fell in love with Kathy and I fell in love with Karina. And I was like, oh, okay. I love being she calls me Papa. So I love being Papa. This is awesome. And then it was funny, we were just talking about it last night with our younger daughter and her husband and just saying like, they're talking about when they're gonna have kids and I was the one that's like, "Let's have a kid. Let's have a kid." Let's have another one. And she's like, "Can I just have a year?" She just got a job at ABC again, and she said, "Can I just have one more year?" And I was pushing for it, and I was like, "Of course." And so how did it change our relationship? I mean, it just deepened our partnership. It just deepened us as what we create, what we co-create together. Being co-parents is huge. It's a massive responsibility, and it's a fun responsibility.
Totally. Totally, totally. So now you said you've become a grandfather. So how old is your grandchild?
We have two. So we've got a 6-year-old Leo, and we've got a 3-year-old Mia. So yeah, it's almost three. She is, and yeah, it's just they're super cool. It's awesome. And so yeah, my future self is surfing and skiing with his great grandchildren. So it's they fit perfectly in. So their kids I'll be surfing and skiing with someday.
That's epic. what was it? Is like are all the cliches about like parenthood versus grandparenthood true? Like,
I would say
yeah, go.
100% of them,
Yeah.
especially the one when the kid's being bratty, you get to just hand them back.
Right, right.
Yeah, but no, it's great. It is, and we've been through it, you know what I mean? So it's like
Sure.
they can't play us like our daughters used to play us. It's like, "Ah, I know what you're doing. That's a complete fake cry," you know, and you just call them out, and they realize it. They're like, "Oh, okay, this is not gonna work with Nana and Papa."
Sure, sure. Is there anything, like, from a parenting perspective, like, that you wished you would have known or advice you would give to new parents? My wife and I we have a 10.5-month-old. So I'm selfishly asking, but
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that you're looking to be a better parent. For us, the thing that our daughters say was the biggest game changer and the biggest difference between us and other parents is as long as they were honest with us and transparent, they could do no wrong. So if they came home and said like, I did this, whatever, I smoked pot or something like that, we're not going to beat them up and, you know, and grill them. We're just going to say, "Oh, tell me more about that." It's a lufu with them to understand. Oh, why, why that happened? Why'd you do it? How'd you feel about it? What do your friends think? What do your friends do? And so we got to have this real inside information, really, of knowing what's going on in our daughter's life, so we could help more coach them instead of telling them how they need to
mm,
live. We would be able to coach them and be like, "Is this the best choice for you?" And have them see it and recognize it. So, Kathy went through coach certification too after I went through it. She's like, "Oh man, his communication skills have really improved." So she went through it, and so we were able to bring coaching to our daughter. So I would say that would be a great thing for any parent, new parent would be learn. As a book called Coactive Coaching. You'd learn a lot through that, or even better is like just do a basic coaching course on how to coach anyone, and that carries over to your kids.
that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely welcome.
Um, how do you think about, because obviously you guys have done very, like you said, live an awesome life that includes a lot of abundance, and so you guys probably, you are very hard workers, and also I imagine like you're very successful.
Hmm.
How do you think
Yeah,
about
grateful.
raising kids around success and money, and like and keeping them grounded, and kind of trying to balance that? Like, how do you think about those things?
Yeah, in the beginning of our relationship, we were literally counting quarters, just trying to make it work and really, trying to get coaching clients. I'd lose a coaching client and be like, "Oh man, what are we going to do?"
Mhm.
And, Kathy was working her job and all that. And then, so Karina grew up with very little money and abundance. But we still found ways to have cheap fun, lots of camping trips, climbing trips, things like that that don't cost much money, but they're really fun, even going on hikes and things. And then, that was the way it was in the beginning with Krista. But once we got Real Wealth started, that was 2003, uh, our wealth started to grow. We started to help more people. We started to invest more in real estate. And then we got to a level where it was, a good amount of abundance. And what we've always done, I think because we came from kind of like middle class, and when we got started, we had barely any money, that we kind of carried that same thing through about, um, how do I say, like having our kids be entrepreneurial, I guess is the best way
Mm.
to say. So we
Mhm.
never gave them handouts. We would pay them for projects. If they'd say, can I clean the garage? And we're like, sure. And they clean the garage, and we'd give them $10 or something like that. And then they would also be very creative. They would, set it, Krista would set up, like, she would make cookies and, do the stand on the side of the road and make money that way. And so I think that was the key for us financially was, uh, teach them to be self-sufficient, teach them entrepreneurship. And now they're both entrepreneurs. They both have their own businesses. Our older daughter has an amazing email marketing company. She works with Manscaped and Allbirds, and she has some pretty high level clients. Bigger Pockets is one of her clients. So it's really cool to see that. So it's like,
That's
whoa, it worked, I
amazing.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. Yeah. Super
The proof
grateful
is in
on
the
that
pudding.
one.
Man, that's so cool. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I do wanna start wrapping things up here, and so, um, things I've been thinking about is, like, what's something that you've changed your mind about recently, like in recent memory?
Whew, something that I've changed my mind about. I mean, it sounds cliche, but around AI,
Yeah.
because like there was this thing about like, oh, AI is taking jobs and AI is a shortcut or it's cheating. And the more I deep dove it, like about a year and a half ago, I went through a very expensive 6-week cohort with 56 other business owners. And I really learned the power of it and using AI as a thought partner where I'm the thought leader. So I'm the thought leader. I come up with the ideas and I'll work with AI and say, interview me one question at a time about this context.
Hmm.
And here's what I'm looking for. Here's your role. I want you to act, serve me in this role. And what it helps draw out, it's like the ultimate business coach. Um, so that's been a shift. So now it's like now I look at AI, I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest gifts to humanity if you use it the right way.
Hmm. So overall optimistic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm
Okay.
very much an early adopter. I love new technology and new things, and just geeking out on it. And even like Kathy's podcast it was the first real estate podcast on iTunes. It was iTunes back in the day, is what it used to be on. But
Right.
I
Right. Right.
remember it was 2005. I had an iPod, and which Kathy didn't want me to get because it was expensive. But I'm like, I have to have it, So I got it, and then I got this email from Apple saying there's a new thing called iTunes. You can download your songs, and you can also have podcasts on it. So
Mhm.
actually, there was you could do the songs on iTunes, and then they added this new thing called podcasts, uh, which comes from a pod, from the iPod.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
I
Right.
took the CD that she would get from her radio show and brought it home, burned it, and converted it into an MP3, and uploaded that to iTunes. And it was a game changer. All of a sudden, we went from a local audience to listeners in 27 different countries wanting to work with Real Wealth and wanting to invest through us. So that was I don't know, just going back to the technology piece. It's like whenever I
Right.
see
Right.
something new that's uh, life changing, I love to embrace it.
That's awesome. And so obviously AI in today's day and age, is that what?
Yeah, I've been kind of
Yeah.
going nuts on it,
Yeah.
geeking out for sure.
Spending a little too much time at night, I'm sure, being like,
Mm,
oh, one more prompt.
yeah, exactly.
What obviously you're a very intentional person. It comes through in everything that you say and do.
Thank you.
Are you careful about what you allow in? And if so, like what are the inputs that you do allow in? So what is the content that you do allow in or the books that you do allow in? Stuff like that.
Ah, these some cool questions. I like these, and I haven't been asked these before. Um, I guess I'm intentional about more what I bring in and less about what I'm trying to keep out. Like, I love a awesome violent, movie or series, or like watching Vikings or something like that. There's this other weird side of me is probably my Norwegian roots, that just loves crazy. And Kathy's like, you can't sleep well at night unless you watch someone get murdered. So I do let that in, right? It's really weird. But on the flip side, I don't know what it is. It's probably adrenaline, but on the flip side, what I let in and what I absorb as much as I can about positive psychology and growth, and how can I be better? How can I improve? How can I have more discipline? How can I be more stoic? So I'm constantly working on myself. I've got habit trackers, and I got a thing I check in with every single day. That's like my three identities of loving man. I'm a lean, agile athlete, and I'm a conscious leader. So I read over all my affirmations every day. So I'm very intentional about putting things in that are going to help me be better, stay positive, be stoic, be strong. Yeah. So I think it's more of that. And like I said, the Brian Johnson stuff, the Philosopher's Notes, Heroic is another really cool thing. That's that app that I use. It does your identities, and constantly reading and listening to audiobooks on personal growth, business growth.
How do you think about like, I think the book is The Gap and the Gain. So how do
Love it.
you how do you balance between you have this hunger to grow and do more and be better, and also love where you are and love where you're at and be
Mm,
content? Like, how do you think about that?
structured gratefulness. So I meditate every day. So I'm going on up to almost 4 years now that I have not
Wow.
missed a day of meditation. And, in the beginning, it was like the hardest thing to do. My brain would be all over the place. And then I learned that meditation is not about just having a quiet mind. It's about being present in the moment. And the brain starts to change. And so now I'm much better at bringing myself into the moment and just like being grateful for what I have in the moment. That takes the focus off the gap. So
Mm,
it's like, yeah, where am I, man? I look around and I'm grateful for, and going through that cancer scare, deep in that. It's like not too hard to not focus on the greatness of what I have in my life.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, well, Rich, you are the best. Thank you so much. If people
Thank
want to
you.
learn more about
Sweet.
real wealth, where's the best spot for them to go?
Super easy, realwealth.com. That's the easy one. And then Wise Investors on Amazon, and you can get it anywhere. And Extreme Success, Scaling Smart, all those are our books.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for being here, Rich. I so appreciate you. You're a huge mentor to me, and this has really, really been fun. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Great questions. Loved it. Look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you again sometime soon.
100%. All right. Bye, everybody.